We're glad to have you join us for the fifth of our 2024 Travels with Tulsans presentations. We want to thank the Rudisill Regional Library staff for coming to our rescue when we had scheduling conflicts at the Central Library. If you would like more information about becoming friends of the Tulsa City County Libraries, please pick up one of the Friends membership forms in the back table. We would love to have you join us in supporting our 5-star library system. Be sure to be back next week when our presenter will be Nancy Bizjak, and she's taking us beyond Barcelona, where she biked the Costa Brava region of Spain. Our traveler today is taking us on a Colorado River excursion, and it is George Moudry. We appreciate George, who is a frequent presenter. I think he's done 4 presentations so far. George grew up in Czechoslovakia, where he studied 4 years of engineering at South Bohemian University. After the Russian invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968, he emigrated to Canada and graduated from Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. He earned his master's degree at the University of South Alabama and a doctorate in exercise physiology at the University of Tennessee. For several years, he taught anatomy and physiology at 2 universities. After he got his MBA, he became an administrator at St. John's Health System in Tulsa. He capped his career as the director of academic services at OSU School of Osteopathic Medicine in Tulsa. George and his wife, Gwen, are retired after a long career in healthcare. George and Gwen are avid travelers. So let's hear it for George.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. That was definitely the most recent one. I'll be talking about mask. I am negative in COVID, but I had COVID last week, so they said to wear a mask, but I got tested, and so I'm okay, no symptoms, still alive. Anyway, I'm talking about 3 trips down the Colorado River. The first trip took place in 2010, and that was a commercial trip. That means you pay your money, you go out there, they take you down the river, and they do all the work. The second trip, we loved the first trip so much, we said we have to do it again. So we organized with our club, the Green Country Outdoor Club, which you have some members over here, to organize a private trip. And we did. And it was such a success, we did it again here after that. So here we go. We go to this. So where is Grand Canyon? Grand Canyon is in northern Arizona. Everybody knows where it is. And essentially starts from the Grand Canyon Dam and all the way down to Lake Mead. So, everybody's familiar with that. The most commercial part of the park is, of course, the South Rim and the North Rim. And there are trails to go down to the river, to Phantom Ranch. But let's just talk about the canyon, how it's formed. Everybody knows there's a river going and it just gouges a big canyon. Well, let's imagine a wedding cake, tall, layered wedding cake. You take the cake and you put sharp knife on top of the cake. It still sits on the cake. And then you take the platform of the cake and start shaking it a little bit and raising it up, raising it up. And what does the knife do? It keeps sinking into the cake. Not because the river is digging in, it's because the ground is rising up. Okay, it's took hundreds of millions of years for the platform, the plateau, to come up that high. And it's called the Grand Staircase. There are 3 huge plateaus in that area. Each of them is 100 miles long, about 80 miles wide. And the lowest one is the Kaibab Plateau, which is the plateau of the Colorado, of Grand Canyon National Park, elevation between 5,000 and 6,000 feet. Then the next plateau is Markaduck Plateau, that is elevated another 1,000, 1,500 feet, and that's where Zion National Park is. And of course, Zion is another marvelous canyon. I'm sure most of you have been there. And then you go further up to the 3rd plateau, which is called the Pansangat Plateau, which is the Bryce National Park on that plateau. And it's also fantastic canyon. So this Grand Staircase is a really fantastic geological formation. So that's how the canyon is formed. So if you look at the profile of the canyon, then you see all those geologic areas like Permian, that's the most recent one, lasted 350 million years. So it took the river to carve this far down in 350 million years. And then, of course, it goes down the Cambrian period that is 550 to 600 million years down. And now, right, the Colorado River is back here. And that's the oldest rocks you can find on Earth are actually in the end of the Grand Canyon, especially the Vishnu Schist. Everybody talks about Vishnu Schist. So the Grand Canyon is a geologist's wet dream. They can find all kinds of rocks, all sediments, through millennia as they go down. So that's the lecture. This is the river, taken from the book, and I will talk about that a little later when we go to the private. So this trip, we made the money. We flew to Las Vegas. They picked us up with the bus and took us to the airport. We got on the plane, and the plane was flying over the Grand Canyon, and we saw the beauty, just the magnificence of this hole in the ground. And it landed in International Airport, Whitmore International Airport. There were no crowds, I guarantee you. So they put us in the helicopter, and we got in the helicopter, and we went down the Grand Canyon. The guy went down, flew along the canyon around. Oh, there was just this flight was worth the money. It was just fantastic, except the pilot was a little bit of a jokester. So a couple of times he aimed the helicopter right at this cliff, and in the last moment he go. So it was getting us ready for the river, I guess. So anyway, and then we landed in this beach just below, a few miles below Phantom Ranch, and there's these 2 huge rafts, fully loaded, lock and loaded, ready to go. And there's some people waiting there already. So we jumped on the raft. There was 32 of us. There was 16 people for each raft, and we had 4 people, five guides, I believe. And so we took off. And then we go down the river. Oh, it's just magnificent. The place is just like a God's cathedral. Anyway, the more adventurous people like my wife Gwen and other folks, they sit on the top, on the ends of those pontoons. And when the raft goes in the rapid, it goes down and everybody is wet. So that's why they have to hold on to these ropes for their dear life. And of course, they dry out after a while because it's hot and windy. The guides tell everybody to take all the jewelry off, rings and everything they have, because of the rough ride and holding to things, and can lose their possessions. And so down we go, further down into the canyon, enjoying the ride. It's just lovely. And the guys talk about it. In fact, one of them was a geologist. So as we go along, he's talking about the rocks and the formations. So they're very educational. Of course, sometimes you end up like this. And some people go on this trip just to experience that. But that was not our picture, because our boatmen were more skillful. I'm just showing you that if you want to go, you might experience some thrill. We'll end up on some beach, beautiful setting, lunch. Look at these guys, get everything ready. Fantastic sandwiches, fantastic. Everything is just so perfect. Then for dinner, these guys really go out. We had steaks and we had some fish, and they're appropriately dressed, and it's like a fantastic restaurant. And of course, we dine in style. Beautiful scenery, good company, good food. Oh, just great. All right, but of course, the guides, they know the side canyons and places to go, and so we could maybe climb. There's a kind of a rope ladder going down, and we climb up the top of this waterfall and take a little dip, and after that, we go to this canyon, and these canyons are so magnificent. The picture, unfortunately, doesn't do it justice, because the colors, they're oranges, they are browns, they are, grays and whites and blacks. And as you go through and the sunshine changes the angle, everything changes. Oh, just whatever. You have to go there. And of course, Gwen is taking a little dip. Oh. Some places people go swimming. It's dangerous because the river goes pretty fast. It's pretty strong current, but in some places there is kind of a backflow, and so people are not swept into the river. So some of our crew decided to go swimming, or jumping, but the water is ice cold because it's coming from the bottom of the Glen Canyon Dam, and so for night we had cots. Everything is perfect. Almost everybody slept outside on the cots with their dry bags, with their goods, and some people put up tents, whatever. But I tell you, there's nothing better than staying on the cot at night and looking at that sky that is just beset with stars. There's no light pollution, and we are relatively high up, and so the nights are just starry like you would not believe. And then you see these shadows, out there, and because they're bats, a bunch of bats everywhere, so they fly right over you and everywhere, because there's caves and nooks and crannies, and also there are mice. So if you have, especially if you put some good stuff in your dry bag, like my wife Gwen had some cookies, and in the morning there was a big hole chewed in, by mice, and her dry bag was not so dry after that. Um, okay, we have a little problem, Houston. It won't go forward. So if you can, maybe the mice got to it. I guess you can go that way. Okay, thank you. Some places where creeks are coming into the river, people build little jacuzzi like swimming holes and enjoy themselves. At one point they took us on this tour. The geologist took us to these formations, and he talked about how it was formed and how old it was and what kind of rock is there. So, as I say, educational. And then on the banks of the river are these huge boulders sitting there all by themselves, black as the devil, and tortured like this. Those are lava bombs from the volcanoes spewed up, big chunk of lava, and I don't know, threw it a few miles away. Then I don't know how far, and it landed here. It's been there ever since, and there's a bunch of them around. And finally, we get up to Diamond Creek. We arrive. We get off, all nice, and go to the bus. And they take us back to Las Vegas, and we fly home. So that is the commercial trip. You can compare the two. The second one, we went the very next year. It's a little process. You have to get a permit. That's sort of hard to get. Hard to get because everybody's applying. Thousands of people are applying, and they only selected few. But we got a permit. Then you have to find the boatmen, people who can row the boats and know the canyon and know the rapids. You have to find them. Oh, they're easy to find because they're eager to go down the river because they've been there before. They love it. Then you have to rent rafts, and everything is rented in Flagstaff. They have all the outfits in Flagstaff. And then you have to get provisions, beer mostly, and food and stuff. Get a commercial package, because the first time we said we'll do it ourselves. Don't do it, because after the first day, it's such a mess. These guys with packages, day by day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the number of people you tell them. So it costs some money, but it's well worth it. And of course, you have to have proper gear. So back we go. So we go down, let's say, Grand Canyon Dam. There is Lee's Ferry, and that's where everybody starts, at Lee's Ferry for the private trips, and then just go to Lee's Ferry all the way down to Diamond Creek. Some of them, like us, because there were so many people who wanted to go on a trip, and so many people actually send the money with the application, $25 every time you send it in. Then half the people take the half. Most of the people take the half of the trip to Phantom Ranch. They walk out, and the other guys walk down and take the second part of the trip. And that's what happened here. So we go up across the Navajo Bridge. That's the only bridge across the Grand Canyon that is navigable by a car. And then we go to the beach. And of course, on the way, you see these beautiful formations, fantastic country. And then you come, oh, by the way, this is the Navajo Bridge taken from the raft. This is the bridge for the cars, and this is the pedestrian bridge because it's relatively narrow. A lot of people walk around, take pictures. So we are at the beach. The commercial part is over here, and the private guys are over here. So what happens? The guys from Flagstaffs bring the boat, bring the raft. We help them, put them down, and then we have to inflate them. We have to put the frames in them. We have to do everything, just put them together and load them up. That takes very well all day or afternoon. And then you take the rafts down the river about short, maybe quarter of a mile, and you park it there in one little beach, I guess. And in the morning comes the ranger, and he checks everybody who is there and inspects all the equipment. Takes a while, talks to everybody, and especially equipment. Everything has to be just right before he gives you permission to go down the river. He checks you off, and then you go down. And here we go. Sometimes the river is beautifully green, depending, there's vegetation around the river or on the sunlight. And sometimes it's brown, sometimes dark. And so when you go in a narrower canyon, of course, it's a little darker, you're in the shade. And then, it opens up and it's just a paradise. Just look at these. Okay, we don't see the colors really well, but now there are maroons and reds up here, and there's pale white, and just magnificent. And this is the camp. So we camp. This is for for dinner. We have 16 people, and the people are divided in 4 groups by 4. This is the setup crew, the cleanup crew. There is the kitchen crew, the kitchen crew. The kitchen crew does breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the next day, they switch around. So they have a schedule, so you know what you're going to do next day. And then the last crew is the groover group. And so the groover is a toilet. And it's called a groover because the toilet is actually a ammunition box, big ammunition box. It opens up, and you sit on the ammunition box and do your business, and you have to lock it up and take it back, all the way back. Nothing can stay behind. And we had little man-made toilet seat, be a little more comfortable. But if you don't have it, you sit on the can, use the pun, and when you get up, you have these grooves on your legs. That's why it's called a groover. Okay, anyway. So this sanitation is very, very important. You always wash your hands after using the toilets, and because you don't want to get an infection down here. So that's everybody's pretty touchy about that. As far as peeing, you can pee in the river. That's allowed, but you cannot pee on the sand or anything like that. So the river is, so either in a groover or you go in the river. That's just those are choices, which might be challenging at night for some people, especially after a few beers, to keep their mind. Never mind. Okay. Moving on, and there's my lovely wife. We're busy in the kitchen, and she's just a gem. There's in numerous places there are these waterfalls just streaming from the face of the cliff. It's like a huge fire hose, and if it's accessible, then we go and fill out our water tanks right here. There's a couple of people filling out 5-gallon, canisters. And in some places are maybe little pools of water up there, so we can have a little swim, refreshment. So we get to fresh water often because it's being used all the time. But fortunately, there's plenty of water in the canyon. And you come out of these formations like this grotto in the face of the cliff. Of course, you can see the caves in there, and that's where the bats are. So you get all kinds of configurations. If you kind of squint your eyes, it looks like a skull. Anyway, and then we come to this beautiful place. This is a beautiful long beach in a relatively narrow canyon. It's fantastic. So this is taken from inside of the cave. If you Red Wall Cavern, it's called Red Wall Cavern. And if you come back, this is the picture from the inside. So it gives you the scale, the immensity of the place. Everybody stops here. It's a very famous place. And then, of course, there's a river coming in. It's called Little Colorado. Little Colorado River goes through a Little Colorado Canyon, which is actually very spectacular. If you're driving to the Grand Canyon, you can stop by this canyon as well. And it's this turquoise blue, just blue as baby's eyes. It's because of this special limestone called travertine, and the calcium carbonate is dissolved in the river, and it's blue like that. There's a couple of other creeks that you see that they're this same color. And of course, good place to stop, jump in the water, have a swim. Okay, this is a typical evening. We sit around. We have a special guy in the club that is extremely giving. And his name is Brian. Oh, he's sitting right over there. And Brian brings a couple of kegs of beer. And because it's, somebody who's in the brew business. And this is always welcome. We sit around and drink a few beers and talk about tall stories. And down the canyon we go. Again, I wish the colors were true, but anyway, fantastic scenery. Just look at these steps. The different kind of rock, right? There's one, there's two, there's three. Look at these lines and layers, and there's these almost like made by like a mason, just sheer cliffs, steps. And of course, Indians lived here for millions of years, and or maybe thousands. And they made these granaries where they stored grain up there, and of course some of them had their houses, whatever you want to call them. Of course they are gone, but these artifacts are still there. So we climb up there and check it out. Check the masonry and the engineering and see if it's in code or not. So you think it's low? It's actually pretty high. You have to really scramble up there. So you see how high we are above the river to reach these granaries. So it's quite a hike. Again, go around the river, around the corner, and there's another of those fire hoses coming straight out of the rock. And then we come to this one of the rapids. Oh, I didn't talk about the rapids on the map. The map shows the names of the rapids. So they only named the big ones, like the Badger right up front. It's a big one, and of course, this is the Hans Rapid. Quite challenging rapid. And so we saw this boat going down. Now there's a huge hydraulic hole underneath. That means the water goes down, goes deep, and goes back up. in a big wave. And if you're caught in the hydraulic, you're in a washing machine. Going up, down again. So if it's a big rapid, everybody goes out and we scout. And the boatman, like Mr. Roy Bean, we call him, one of the boatmen, he is telling everybody which way to go and what to go. It all depends on the water level, because during the high water, it's a different way to navigate, because the high water goes over the boulders, but you have to look for the hydraulics. But if it's low water level, you don't have that many hydraulics, but they have boulders everywhere, so you have to navigate through. So anyway, so we map out the route and we go successfully through there, and of course then we relax in the sand and take it easy. And because Gwen and I and some other people took the first part of the trip, at Phantom Ranch, we have to get out of the boat, get a knapsack, and hike out to the top rim, this Bright Angel Trail, hike back up out of the canyon. And the other people with the permit walk down, get on the boats and take the second part down. So this is the first commercial trip. And then, oh, by the way, I am a little bit of a cartoonist. So I made this tableau of all these people that we had. We had these newlyweds, Eric and Janika, they were, lovey-dovey. And we have our own strategist, Brian, right there. Brian Stevens, and my wife, Gwen, and Judge Roy Bean, and of course, Phil Talbert. Everyone knows him. He was actually got the permit. And so we had characters. We had a lot of fun with these people. And the next year, in September, we got a permit in September, so we went down again. The river flows are normally between 8 and 25,000 cubic feet per second. It could go as high as 40,000. And so the first trip we had 18,000. The second trip we had 24,000, and third one we had 11 in September, 11,000. Because later in the year it's a little less flow. The highest flow is in the spring. And this time Gwen and I are walking down. This time we went down the Kaibab Trail down to the river, and then we get approached the river. We go through the tunnel, then we go across the Silver Bridge. It's called Silver Bridge, but it's a footbridge really. And then you go down to Phantom Ranch. And I was sitting out there on the beach, and I see this mule train going across the bridge. And of course, the mules bring the supplies to Phantom Ranch. And then sometimes they bring the tourists down and up. So when you are on the trail, you see the mule trains. And here we are, waiting for our buddies to come in, so the people can walk up and we'll go down the river. So they come in and they tell us that one of the rafts turned over in a Badger rapid, the bed one right at the very beginning. Of course, when you turn over the raft, you lose all kinds of stuff because spills. It was really bad news for me because I had my beer stash in that raft. So I was, for the rest of the trip, I had to beg for beer, but I had good buddies, so they took care of me. Sometimes, and in fact, in this time, I think we lost some meat as well. So what people do if they lose stuff in the rapids, if they have a sat phone, they have somebody up there on top, They call them, buddy, say, hey man, we need such and such. Bring it down for us. So he goes and buys the provisions, puts it on his back, tracks down to the bottom of the canyon, and gives them the. These people are called mules, and of course they are well paid for their trouble. So anyway, so we are on the beach and ready to go down. And here we are again in the narrow canyon, just paddling away, enjoying the scenery. So the canyon, it's narrow, it's dark, the water is dark in the shadow. When it opens, it's beautifully sunny. And so this is the kitchen crew making lunch. That's Jamie there, and her mother. Actually, her mother is the holder, the permit holders. So she came down with us. She is from Minnesota, and she is a professional weightlifter. Squats and dead weight and the deadlift and all that. So a strong woman. Okay. September, hot. So every time we start, everybody finds up some kind of a hole in the shade. So here we are, kind of the surviving. Sometimes the sand is so hot, you just cannot walk on it with bare feet. Speaking of sand, sometimes the wind blows through the canyon so strong and picks up the sand from the beaches. We have a sandstorm just coming down the river. And if you have the headwind, it actually stops the raft. You don't go anywhere. The current and the wind work against each other. So those are the fine points. And we are at probably dinner break, one of the beaches, and we are downloading and getting ready. And I just want to point out that it's very important where you put where you park the raft, because if the beach is shallow and you park it right here, and the water level drops a couple of feet overnight, because it's regulated by the dam, right? By the Glen Canyon Dam. If the water drops, then the raft ends up on the sand. So you have to get it back to the water, and that's a lot of work. A lot of work. In fact, at one point, we had to totally unload the raft and then drag it across with a couple of people with, putting water, splashing water under with buckets, and so we can, anyway. So that's why boatmen, that's their job, to watch over the boats. And so at night, they sit up, they pee in the river, and they check out the boats and make sure that if they are, too high up, they try to push it in, maybe with a couple of help, push it back in, lengthen the rope, and also checking the mooring, checking the ropes, because you don't want that raft going off but on its own. So those are the kind of fun things you can do. And again, we go down again, different cliffs. By the way, this big patch out here, this patch, totally red. I mean, it was just bright red. The rock up there, this, you cannot see it on the photograph, but I just wanted to show the contrast. It's always something to see in there. It's every turn. Like this turn, you come into this, like, what is this? Some kind of a convention? Now, when you see boats like this, just jammed up to some beach or some place, that means there is a really nice hike. There is a canyon, and everybody stops and everybody goes out there for the hike. So we did too, and we go through this canyon, you know, like very narrow and just dark, and the cliffs are just right above you, just a little sliver of sky above you. But this is where you want to end up. It's a nice little waterfall, nice little swimming hole, so everybody jumps in, you know, gets refreshed, and then you go out, and some of the canyons open up into oasis of greenery. There's actually a lot of wildlife down there. There's deer, there's bighorn sheep, a lot of birds like eagles and ravens and otters and muskrats and bats and mice. So anyway, so again, this is the another campsite. Just really quickly, what you need to do is the dishes have to be washed and disinfected every night, every time. Use this, so you the soapy water, and it's a clean water. It's another clean water, and there's this water with chlorine in it to make it super clean. And there's this mesh bag. That's where you put it, and that where it dries, it drips off. So that's the setup. And serving, you know, everybody comes into the serving stool, the table, and load up their plate. And as you see, everybody's very happy. Just for the picture. Okay, listen, you know, you just go down there, you just can't believe it. All these red walls, right? And then underneath it's some gray, pinkish wall. And there's this gray, brown thing on top. And there's this black rock. By the way, when we go down deep in the very deep canyon, there's places, and there's this really black rock somewhere, you know, on the waterline. The geologist starts yelling, "That's a Vishnu schist! That's Vishnu schist!" Oh, really? Oh, man, great. I think Gwen had a piece of it, right? Somewhere. Well, it's all fun, but sometimes, you know, we have a few mishaps, like losing stuff from the raft or getting stuck on boulders. So we have to, you know, get out and rope it up and hopefully bring it back to the main stream. Oh, another setting, you know, beautiful setting out there just before. Okay. And another canyon. And there's another trip. There's another side trip. You walk on the lip of this deep, very deep, narrow canyon. Again, you can see the almost turquoise water. There's blue water. And then in there, and you can take a little branch off to another canyon and explore it. You come to a place, right? It doesn't go any further unless you want to climb up on top. And Miss Gwen says, "That's it, boys. This is the end of the rope. We have to go somewhere else. Let them go back." So we go back, and places it opens up, and you come into yet another just lovely oasis in the middle of nowhere, with really lush, almost forest, because there's a lot of water. And so these hidden gardens in the canyons are just magical. And down we go again. This is again, you can see the green water over here because it's reflecting from the greenery, and in the shade it's kind of a darker water. As I said, there's a lot of wildlife in there. And then you go through the canyon, and you can see the rim around you, you know. And well, that's not the rim of the canyon, it's the rim of the inner canyon. That's the rim of the last step. The canyon actually goes down in really 4 big steps down, and the last step is the inner canyon. So the true rim of the canyon you see from very few places. And this is Lava Falls. Lava Falls is the most feared rapid on the river. And so, of course, again, we all go out and scout which way to go and whatnot. And some boatmen have pictures or graphs of the rapid. Of course, it changes depending on the level of water. But for example, this one shows you, the geography of the rapid and which way to go. Sometimes it's go to the right, go to the right. Sometimes go to the left turn. Nobody wants to go through the hole, that's for sure. So the boatman, for example, most of us, I think, went through the left here, but some of us didn't. Some of us went to the right. But it all depends, how you get situated upriver. And just a picture of a raft in a ledge hole. So it's a little bit of work. And after that, of course, everybody very happy. They rejoice. And just look at the scenery. Look at that thing. It's just magnificent, the colors and the spires and the ruggedness of the place. This is this artistic picture, the self picture with daddy long legs. And here we are helping somebody that unfortunately lost some stuff from the raft because they turned over. So we're helping them to bring the boat to the raft to the shore. Everybody, helps because we have to help each other. Oh, it's another jam up. So it's another trip. So we go up to other narrow canyon or system of canyons, very narrow and narrow. It's another lava bomb like that. Just a huge chunk of lava that landed up here and been sitting here for God knows how long, millions of years, probably. And there are some formations in the rock like this along the river. And these are called pots. And these pots are formed by the river flows in there, and maybe there's a depression of the rock, and there's a boulder or a big rock, ends up in that depression, stay there, and the water moves the rock around, but doesn't dislodge it. And the rock is sitting there being turned around and around for centuries, and eventually just digs a big hole and you can see that in some waterfalls. And there's a big hole in the side. That's exactly how it was formed. And by the way, I would like to introduce the best kitchen crew right here. That's Terry and a guy named, I forgot his name now. But anyway, and we end up in Diamond Creek. Takeout. So everybody bring their boats in, unload everything, and then we have to break down the raft. We have to take the frame out, stuff the frame out, and then we have to deflate them. So we're gonna ready and deflate them, and then we have to roll them out, help the guys to put them back on the trucks. They put them on the trucks and take them back to the Flagstaff. And then we have somebody that picks us up there and drives us on top of the rim out of the canyon. And for example, the professionals, the groups that make money doing these commercial trips. They have these beautiful trailers. They just hook up the raft and just pull it up on these rollers. Oh man, they have it easy. And so this is the crew. This is the last picture on the beach, and we have from the Green Country Outdoor Club, we have here, this is Phil, Juan, Ken and Brenda and myself and Gwen and Steve, and did I forget somebody, Steve? So I hope most of us are from, from the club. So we have a good time, and that's the end. Wants to go, right? Who would prefer the commercial trip? Because the private trip, it's a lot of work, but a lot of fun. Questions?
They never let a raft with a motor go on the river?
Oh yeah, the commercials, the commercial trips, they have motors, yeah, you bet. And the rangers have motors, and they're patrolling the river up and down, making sure that checking the campsites and stuff.
Do you always ride through the rapids, or do they take the boats through and you walk around sometimes?
You ride it. There's no way to walk around it. Well, not with the raft like that, no.
You can walk around Labyrinth.
Well, you can walk around it if you don't, but the raft has to go through.
Right.
So.
The people stay on the raft.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why you came, man. Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever lose anyone overboard?
Oh yeah, people fall over all the time. Yeah. Well, we didn't, but it happens, of course, in the rapids. Absolutely.
Was the one you saw outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So the rafts, many of them have a rope around perimeter, so you have something to grab on, because it's very difficult to get back on the raft by itself. You have to be pulled in. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
So was the cost actually much lower or not much lower?
What is?
Did the cost end up being much
Oh.
lower than what you would have paid?
No, it's much higher. We paid 1,600. The prices I put up there are current prices. We paid 1,600 for a 4-day trip, and now it's 2,000, and 5-day trip 2,600. So it depends amenities, but it's worth the money, I guess.
So George didn't tell the best story. They would have got stuck on this huge. So we called on the cell phone to call a ranger to come down, and the helicopter came down ready to do something about it. And in the meantime, another raft came and hit the newly function. So the husband, the brand new, and his wife, his new wife, fell into the river, and away she went down the river.
Oh, no.
I don't know if that marriage stayed intact or not. Yeah, he was on the okay.
He ended up on the rock.
And
Yeah.
he dislodged the raft, and the raft the river. But they came back in a helicopter and they pulled him up.
Well, I didn't talk about it for 2 reasons, because it happened. We were not there, because that would happen the first part of the trip that we were not there, but Brian was there on the first trip. But we knew about this. And I didn't mention it because I don't have pictures, number one. And number two, I thought it was a family show. How not to treat your new wife. Okay, yes, ma'am.
What happens to all the boxes that, go over
have a big place and we work.
No, they'll be there for another million years. You wouldn't believe it's so what's in the river down there. You know, once it's in the river, I don't know if something is retrieved, but I really haven't heard that. But all the rocket boxes, all the groovers, of course, have to go out and be emptied out there and somewhere in Flagstaff. Anyway, it's exciting trip, beautiful. I didn't mention it, but guys, this country of ours, it's a continent from sea to shining sea. And there's so many things to see in here. I mean, we have everything. We have mountains, we have deserts, we have rivers, canyons, lakes, forests, everything. Everything you want to see is here. And a lot of people are taking advantage of it, especially last post-COVID, because the number of RVs on the roads skyrocketed. And the best business you can get into today is opening an RV park because they're always full. Thank you very much. You have been a great audience.